Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Life Chiropractic College West, and M-Sculpt. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 489 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we have the opportunity of interviewing Dr. David Serio, and we discussed if you love what you do, that you'll never work a day in your life, and that's his life in chiropractic. Stay tuned to listen to the story. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Today we have David Serio coming in from Buenos Aires, Argentina, and it's episode 489. And I always tell people, can you believe it? We're almost at the 500th episode, and it's a real honor.
Hats off to you. That is beautiful.
Yeah, you know, I'll get into our opener here in a second, but I'll tell you, like, the reason that we did this is because it was probably 10 years ago. I went to Mile High #1 with Danny and Rochelle Knowles in Colorado. And I saw this guy named Joe Borio. And he said, I thought the guy was a lunatic, but he was almost foaming at the mouth when he was like, you just got to tell the story. You got to tell the story. You got to tell the story. And I'm a guy that works in an office at this point, and I'm like, what the heck story is he talking about? So now, with Chiro Hustle, that's all we've really been doing is telling the chiropractic story. But it's back to the BJ Palmer quote. You never know how far reaching something you say or do today will have the impact on millions of lives tomorrow. And because he said that, look at the millions of lives we're having impact with telling the story.
Yeah, James, you just told me 13,000 people per month are checking out your podcast. That is incredible. And still, we think that, chiropractic is really not that old if you think about the beginning of time and humans. And so there is still so much to do. In our lifetimes, we'll never reach every person on this globe. So, there's so much work to be done in this field of getting our message out to people. So, congrats.
It's funny. I don't mean to speak from ego, but I would tell people, like, if BJ Palmer is still alive, I'd have him working for me. Because that guy's a heck of a promoter. And if we were working together, oh boy. Yeah, I think it's about relationships, though. So I want to jump into this episode, but I'm going to give the opener of why we do what we do over here at Chiro Hustle. We protect freedom of speech. As people have seen over the past couple of years, that's a big issue. So we need to really protect our chiropractic languaging, protect the chiropractic lexicon, protect certain words within the profession. And I also believe in family health choices. So family freedom is important to me. And this show stands for that as well. And medical freedom. I believe everybody has a decision to make for how they take care of themselves and their families. So those things are the first thing that I've always mentioned on our show. We also protect BJ Palmer's Sacred Trust. I always tell people, if they don't know what that means, go to their favorite search engine and look up BJ Palmer's last words. And I tell people, you'll know a whole lot more about chiropractic than what you did previous to getting onto one of our episodes. And then we believe in subluxation-based chiropractic. I know that sometimes it's really challenging for people to come to terms with how important that is to the profession of chiropractic. You get both sides. You get the people that are the deniers, you get the people that are the enthusiasts, and you get the people that use it as historical context, or you get from the people that really believe what chiropractic is doing and why it's important to hold on to the historical verbiage, which is encapsulated into this profession. And then we go to a couple other words that are so important with their meanings, and that's innate intelligence and universal intelligence. We believe that when man or woman, the physical, get adjusted, it connects them to man or woman, the spiritual. And with that being said, this is episode 489. David Serio, welcome.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful mission.
Yeah, and we had an interview 4 years ago. Your episode 85. And here we are 4 years later.
Lies.
Yeah, right?
I thought it was like 2 years ago when we got on. We said we talked 2 years ago on here, 4 years ago.
Yeah, and in that time we featured your book that came out called 33. Let's just pre-frame people why you made 33.
Okay, James. Well, it was the brilliant idea of my wife. She said, she said, you have so many great chiropractors that I've met that have different, unique expressions, but all within the same type of umbrella. It'd be great if there was a book with all these chiropractors together. And then we both came up with the idea, let's do a book with the 33 principles. And I was to write in between the principles. So that was the original idea of the book. And really what I aimed for, James, was not a super deep philosophical book, but more of a practical book. Because what I noticed talking to a lot of chiropractors that were not really exposed in school to the principles and the philosophy, they were kind of lost when they picked up deeper books like Stevenson's and stuff like that. So, and Joe Strauss has some amazing books, but I just wanted to give a different flavor. There's a lot of great books out there, but I just wanted to give something a little bit easier, more practical, with a ton of different expressions in chiropractic.
So let me ask you, what has it done over the past 4 years for the profession, and what are some of your takeaways on it?
Yeah, so I put it out there. You remember when it first came out, people started posting the cover from different places in the world. So it kind of took on this energy. And I started getting messages like, I got so many practical tips from the book, things that I could use in practice. And I always felt like that was one of the gifts that I received from my mentors, were taking this deep understanding of philosophy and bringing it into a practical setting. Because in the end of the day, one of my mentors, Tom Gilardi, who founded Sherman College, always says, you can have this amazing philosophy, very deep, but at the end of the day, if it's not practical, it has no use. And so that is probably, James, one of the biggest takeaways. I still get messages from all around the world saying the same thing. I'm using so much from the book.
Well, chiropractic philosophy has been the same for 127 years. And since the chiropractor number one, Dr. D.D. Palmer, decided to start the profession of chiropractic. So many of the foundations and fundamentals will never change. And
so principles.
And what I'll tell you is so many people are searching for chiropractic and the philosophy as a healing art. They just don't know what it's called. And I think, as you know, I've done so many of these interviews actually on shows. You're 489, but as complete interviews over the past 5.5 years, we're at almost 1,300. So to be an episode of the show is really prestigious, in my opinion. And I interviewed a guy named Grant Cardone. Do you know who that is?
Mm-hmm.
He told me best known beats best every day. So we have to develop to become the best known, because we do have the best. And if we can establish that fundamental truth that chiropractic is the best, but it's not the best known, we have a lot of work to do. So I think that when I got a chance to read your book, it's been a while, so I don't recall a lot of it, but I recall like the stories. And I recall that you assigned each person to write a story that coincided with a principle.
Yes.
And that makes it best known. So if we can continuously create little narratives and vignettes and stories we can get more people to understand the power of chiropractic.
Yes, and I want to add some to that, James, because that's a great quote, but also I think there's something to be added to that. Best known if the message is clear. And I think that's why I love what you're doing as well. Because here's the thing, the word chiropractic could be best known, but when there's so much confusion as to what we do and what we don't do, that will completely water down our impact in humanity. And so I don't think in our case it's just best known. It's what are we actually known for has to be added to that. And the other day, James, I was thinking about this. You know, I have hashtag chiropractic on my social media so I could see all the posts, right? And literally, James, I'm not kidding. There was literally about 10 hours. I just saw post after post after post. And I think there was 2 chiropractic adjustments in all these posts. The rest were all other things. And I was thinking, you know, and this isn't judging anything. I was just thinking about this, like, how do we not understand as chiropractors that we have one of the greatest gifts on the planet that someone could do to another person regarding their life, their human potential, their health, and yet sometimes we can't see that right in front of us, you know, and that starts with the schools to begin with.
Well, I think it starts a lot with the fundamentals. You know, one of my mentors, Dr. Fred Schofield, he would always tell me, first you have to crawl, then you have to walk, and then you can run. And I think that that's where we're still at in the development of building clarity.
Mm-hmm.
Is we're working on making sure that we're not stumbling. And I know that that's something that you probably train with your teams. And before we get to the next part of the conversation, I want to talk about your teams. Vida Chiropractic, 29 franchise clinics,
Mm-hmm.
52 people, 5 countries, 170,000 patient visits last year. Tell me about what it feels like when I share that with you.
Yeah, I mean, it gives me goosebumps. But I was thinking about this morning. A team only happens when people on the team are inspired in the same mission, and it's about all of them. I'm a servant for my team, even though I founded it. I'm maybe the leader of the team. I'm a servant for them, and so we all look at this as a movement. It's not even a team anymore. This is a movement. And where we're going to, James, I'm going to announce it here, but someday, probably more quick than later, we are going to open a school. So, you know, you heard it first here on the Chiro Hustle. and that's where we're going with this. This is a movement. And so the only way that happens is to have amazing people. A lot of our assistants have been with us years and years and years. So you just have this huge tribe of people with different levels of experience all feeding in. And we're evolving on a quantum level. It's not like 1 + 1 = 2, 1 + 1 = 400, you know, and it's just, we're not going to stop. We're going, our vision is to be within the reach of every person on the planet can choose to go to a Vida chiropractor. That's our vision.
Well, I'm just going to go back to what you were saying about education. The big takeaways I get, because I talk to at least one chiropractor a day,
Mm-hmm.
every day.
Yeah.
Like every day I talk to one chiropractor. And the takeaways I find is when people are looking for a second set of hands is, oh boy, do they know how to adjust? Oh boy, do they know their real value? Like there's these disconnects. Do they have philosophy? Do I have to train them for 6 months as a new hire, pay them to actually learn how to be a chiropractor? And I think that from understanding, we have 2 sponsors that are chiropractic universities. We have Sherman and we have Life West. And we've linked arms with those 2 colleges because I found them to be some of the leaders with actually having real philosophy that the students come out with. And when somebody hires one of those grads or brings them onto their teams, they don't have to go and teach them for the next 6 months of how to be a chiropractor. They come out with the essential skills to actually open the door, turn the lights on, pull the open sign, and they can start checking, detecting, and correcting vertebral subluxations. They know why they do what they do, and they have the skills to deliver the goods. And I think that the biggest thing with education is developing the strategy to where we don't have to retrain and reintroduce chiropractic to somebody that went and got a 7-year degree and making them an effective practitioner.
Great point. Great point. I'm a Sherman grad myself. I have some friends that are in Life West right now. Great point. I agree with you. And I want to share something beyond that, James. If you think about how a martial art is passed down, right? You go to these dojos, and I really don't think you could become like a 4-level black belt without having a master that's literally there teaching you. So I think the school's main job is to give people the fundamental basics and principles of business communications practice. And from there, chiropractors in the field can help take people to that next level of the black belt level, and that's really how mastery is passed down, So, but the issue is that a lot of the schools aren't even given the fundamental basics of chiropractic. So they're setting chiropractors up for failure right from the beginning because we're just duplicating things that are already out there rather than focusing on what is our unique gift for the world.
Mm-hmm. You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Life Chiropractic College West, and M-Sculpt. Let's hustle. Yeah, I mean, when I see somebody and I see that they have a degree of chiropractic medicine, I throw up in my mouth. Like, I just think that, just being honest, like chiropractic is chiropractic without any medical intervention. And chiropractic is a healing art. And that's what we need to go back to, is where did chiropractic origin story from? And if you follow that journey, there was never a medical integration. And I think it's okay. You can have medical professionals that network together, that work together, that focus on best outcome scenarios. But nowhere in my life did I ever think I would see chiropractic medicine on somebody's degree.
James, every single day, still, I graduated in 99, right, from Sherman. Every single day, James, I am blown away checking people's spines, adjusting people's spines. And not only the stories they tell, because that could be subjective, but I'm talking about you look in their face, you look at them, and they're just completely transformed people. I mean, I want to share a quick little story. Okay?
Absolutely.
The other day, my daughter plays field hockey. So her trainer is 20 years old. Okay, 20 years old. She comes for a first visit and says to me, look, I have all kinds of stomach problems, menstrual problems. I haven't slept in like 9 years. I do natural medicine. Nothing has helped me. This is a 20-year-old, right? So think about her life in 30 years, right? She sits on the table. I just said, sit normal. And I take a picture of her posture, right? And she's just like this, like totally shut down. One atlas adjustment, James, she comes back and she's like sitting like this, like the second visit. And she goes, first night I slept in like years and years, first time I ate. And you're talking about one chiropractic adjustment, right? And I'm thinking, this is the gift. I mean, now see that person over a lifetime. you transform their life on every single level, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And here's the thing, my mother lives in Florida in one of the most concentrated area chiropractors. I went to 30 chiropractors before I can get her a chiropractic adjustment. Right. And so it's like, how do we not see the gift that we have for humanity? Because no one can deliver that but a chiropractor. No one.
And that wakes something up in me because I know the numbers. I
Yeah.
know that there's 60,000 chiropractors in the United States. And I also know that 50% of them are part-time practitioners. And now if we have to go to 30 of them to find one that actually knows how to check, detect, and correct vertebral subluxations, now the pool gets really narrow, that gets really shallow. So really what we need to do is make sure that, I'm on a strategic committee for the future of chiropractic. And they asked me some things about student development. And I said, look, if that person comes out of school, and I'm just being really raw, and they don't know how to at least do the flying sevens and get bones to move and actually put a proper adjustment on somebody and just find it, fix it, and leave it alone like Gonstead would do, I go, they're not practicing chiropractic. I'm sorry. I go, you have to go back to the basics. And if I don't care what their business model is, if they don't know how to do the thing that makes chiropractors unique, distinct, and non-obvious, that's what it takes to become patented, by the way. If they don't know how to do those things, then they're not practicing real chiropractic and they're not going to tell the story and deliver the goods and share this message to people.
Yeah. And James, going back to our team, that is one of the things that really motivated me and inspired me because, I remember Liam Schul the first time I met him. I know you had him on your podcast, but he asked me a great question. How many people you see him per month? And at the time, my practice was at its height. It was about 1,600 people in a month by myself, and due to my technique and stuff, that was kind of like my maximum, right? To keep my quality. So he said, is that it? And I started thinking, whoa, I want this number to be 100 times this because, I don't want to focus on what other people are doing. I know what type of chiropractic I want to put in the world. And Tom Gilardi used to ask us this question at Sherman all the time. I'm grateful that he was the president when I started there. And he said, in 7 generations from now, here's the question you have to ask yourself. Will your grandkids and 7 great grandkids in 7 generations be able to get an effective, affordable subluxation correction service? Yeah. And so that really inspired me throughout my whole life to say, okay, if it's up to me, yes. And that's all I can do is.
So when I close out this interview, you can answer it now, but I always like to ask, if you were the last chiropractor on planet Earth, would the profession survive?
100%. 100%. That is literally Danny Knowles and I lived together at Sherman College, and Rochelle also went with us, and we used to ask ourselves to each other those questions like, okay, we're the last chiros on Earth. When we get out of Sherman, you are the last surviving chiropractor. What are you going to do with that? And that's literally what motivates me and inspires me every day.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit to. You live in Argentina.
Yes.
You said you have clinics in 5 countries.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about where you see the future of chiropractic going in those 5 countries.
Okay, so we're in Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Spain, and Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm just going to talk about what we can do because I don't know what everyone else is doing, or
Sure.
But I can tell you that our goal in all these countries is to have an impact in the educational systems and the political systems. But at first, James, starts with our practice. So, we're doing this in steps where the first focus is build your practice, make an impact in the public first. That's priority. Your family is a priority, because what's the use if your family breaks down and you have a great practice and you're in the politics of chiropractic? So we want to make sure that their practice is really solid, their family is really solid. their economic life is really solid. Because in the end of the day, James, to make differences in education, politics, all that stuff, you need money, right? And so there's not enough chiropractors giving back to organizations and schools that are going to make sure that the survival of chiropractic is for our generations of kids, not only the survival, but the thriving of chiropractic.
Yeah, I think, the linear model there is really important for people to understand, because when you do the thing the right way in sequence, you don't have to go back and fix things. And I think right now what we're doing is chiropractic messaging is out of sequence, and we have to go back and fix things.
Totally.
And I think if we're clear on that, then there's no confusion of what chiropractors do and why they do it. And it's going to be that much easier for people to understand. I was thinking about putting together my next talk is called Why Dentists Do Chiropractic Better Than Chiropractors. Because because their message is unified. And I tell people all the time, David, is if you had to wear your spine on your face, you'd take better care of it.
100%, bro. And think about this, James. I will give you a great example. One night I had a talk, and a woman said to me, oh, this is great, but I have to continue to pay for it or something. And I said, do you have a cell phone? Yeah. And when are you going to stop paying for your cell phone? Never. Right. So we're all connected with external communication all the time. Not one person that owns a cell phone will probably ever give up their cell phone. So, right, our electricity in our house, it's electricity so we're used to communication, electricity, but the electric energy in our body, or the communication system in our body, that's where it starts. So, and it's such a simple message. you have a hey, Laura, I want to just shout out. We went to school together. We have such a simple message, James. It's like, how well does your body work if it's not coordinated? Simple.
Yeah, and I see what you're saying there. I do a ton of screenings. I went out and I did in 36 months 600 of them. And I would always tell people that say that they don't need to see the chiropractor, or they don't believe in chiropractic. I just use the dental thing. I'm like, so did you go to the dentist one time and never go back? I'm like, how much sense does that make? And then they're like, yeah, I think you're right. And I go, yeah, I mean, what happens when we don't really invest in quality of life for ourselves and do the things like consistency over time? Then our body breaks down. We don't feel good. We don't perform well. And I go, if you don't brush your teeth, you just brush them the one time, then eventually you don't have teeth. And I said the same thing when it comes to understanding their quality of life when it comes to chiropractic. Why would you come one time and expect a miracle adjustment, which could happen as we've discussed? But why would you not want to have that be a part of your life for the rest of your life?
100%, brother. 100%. And a great example I use as well is like, okay, so you have a significant other. Yes. Okay. What happens if you're not communicating clearly with them on a regular basis? Your relationship is going to be the same? No, it's going to break down. Well, that happens in your body. If your brain and body are not communicating on a regular basis with clarity, the body breaks down. We make sure that it is communicating with clarity by removing vertebral subluxations. Simple. Yeah.
So I know you mentioned the school, which
Yes.
I think is a really cool thing that you brought to the attention of our show today. But what's next for Vida? What are you guys going to be doing? What are you working on?
Yeah, well, actually, in 10 days, we have an annual get-to-gathering where we all get together in one of the countries. We're going to be in Chile. We do training. We do socialization with our team, connection, nature things. We're going whitewater rafting, hiking. So we all gather there for 4 days, and we just bring the chiropractic heat, which keeps us inspired at a super high level to the next year. And we go country to country. So that's in the present moment. In the future, pretty soon, we're going to be opening up a couple of practices in a country called Oman, and most likely in Pakistan. So we're expanding out to other countries, and then in, I would say, the medium to near future, we're going to have seminars that we're starting to organize. There'll be technique, chiropractic philosophy, success, communications, and then eventually the school.
Yeah, I love it. I love your passion for this profession. I love that you took the sacred trust and protected it.
Thank you, brother.
I love that if the chiropractic profession was down to one chiropractor, it would survive because of you. I'm thankful that you're doing everything you can to perpetuate the future of the profession and to do the right thing. We have a couple minutes left of our show today. I know we didn't get to all the questions that I had for you, but is there anything that I didn't touch on today that you think is important to share with our audience before we call it a day?
Sure. And James, I just want to say, can't wait to take a picture with you at Sherman Lyceum. Coming up today, we're going to get a nice picture.
Amen.
I can't wait to meet you in person, and hopefully get to check your spine while we're there.
Oh, for sure. I love that.
So one thing, James, I want to share a quick little story about this. Yesterday, I see on Facebook, I had a friend from college who went out to Hollywood with a vision. He didn't know music, and he became one of the biggest music producers in all the Hollywood movies. He does all the Disney movies, and he's amazing. So I see him yesterday at one of the award ceremonies, and I always see him working on his craft, even though he has already made it big there. His name is Matt Sullivan. He's one of the biggest music producer movies right now that there is, but he still constantly works on his craft. And, that I translate into chiropractic. I've been in this since 1999, graduated school, and every day I'm still like, I need to work on my craft. I need to get better at my craft. Like, we have this amazing philosophy, but here's the big question. Can you deliver with your hands what the 33 principles are expressing? And that's, in my opinion, what every chiropractor should work towards. And that's a lifetime of dedication to the craft. No matter how big your practice is, no matter how many spines you've seen, you can always go deeper and get better. And that's something that I really try to aspire to. Let my hands be an expression of the 33 principles.
So I'm going to summarize. If you love chiropractic, it's your craft, and you'll never have to work another day in your life. And they always say that if you do something you love, you're not working anyways. So I thank you for being so clear. Thanks for having conversations about chiropractic quality. I think that those are essential for people to hear. I'm just really thankful for our friendship, and I'm proud of you for doing the work to build people up to believe in this profession better. Because if you have a vision and you can pass that to other people and they can share that vision with you, we can definitely protect the sacred trust and know that your next 2 generations, 3 generations will be able to see a chiropractor for subluxation based chiropractic and get adjusted as necessary. David Serio, you're 489 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. Thanks for being our guest today.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Thanks. I'll talk to you soon. Look forward to seeing you at Sherman Lyceum.
Me too. Thank you. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Right. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.